Welcome to Thinkplus Education. This is day 17 of our 60 Days to CAT series. In today's session, we're going to discuss an RC from the 2024 CAT Slot 1 paper. This is one of those interesting questions. Let's jump right into it. Like always, we will do this one paragraph at a time. Read one paragraph, write down the main idea, proceed, and using the map, solve the questions. So, let's start. Oftentimes, when economists cross borders, they are less interested in learning from others than in invading their garden plots. Gary Becker, for instance. So the moment I read a for instance, automatically I'm saying that, hey, this is the author's opinion, and he's giving an example. Pioneered the idea of human capital. Now, how is this relevant to whatever has been said before? Let's see. To do so, he famously tackled topics like crime and domesticity, applying methods honed in the study of markets to domains of non-market life. So here is a guy who said, I will apply the concepts of economics to understand what is not economics. So that's pretty much what this is. Are less interested in learning from others than in invading their garden plots. To do so, we've read that. He projected economics outwards into realms, for example, by revealing the extent to which humans calculate marginal utilities when choosing their spouses or stealing from neighbors, or his audacity. But anyway, basically he brought this thought process, he pushed his economics onto other domains, is what it says. At the same time, he did not let other ways of thinking enter his own economic realm. Again, for example, so fundamentally the whole paragraph is saying that economists push their ideas onto other domains. Least bothered to learn. From others. That's pretty much what it is. Second paragraph. Times have changed for the once almighty discipline. The almighty discipline here refers to, of course, Economics has been taken to task within and beyond its ramparts. Some economists have reached out, imported, borrowed, and collaborated, been less imperial, more open. Consider Thomas Piketty, great person, and his outreach to historians. The booming field of behavioral economics, the fusion of economics and social psychology is another case. Having spawned active subfields like judgment, decision-making, and a turn to experimentation, the field aims to go beyond the caricature of rational man to explain how humans make decisions. Guys, for those of you who are not from the economics background, the first and foremost assumption made in neoliberal or the general conventional economics is that man is a rational being, which is not true. So the second paragraph says what? The second paragraph says, here comes the downfall of economics, or maybe we should not call it economics ka downfall. What we should call it is, change, delta. Let me change that into delta. So that's a delta change in economics. They are moving away from being imperial to learning from others. Third paragraph. It is important to underscore how this flips the way we think about economics. For generations, economists have presumed that people have interests, preferences in a neoclassical argot. Argot is basically like jargon. Certain set of people use certain language that we will not understand. It's like, a Telugu, Visakhapatnam based Telugu dialect is very different from, Rajamandri based Telugu dialect. Sometimes the other person may or may not understand what we are saying. That get revealed in the course of people's choices. Interests come before actions and determine them. If you are hungry, you buy lunch. If you are cold, you get a sweater. If you only have so much money and can't afford to deal with both, your growling stomach and your shivering, which need you choose to meet using your scarce savings reveals your preference. So, earlier, Econ obsessed with preferences. Simple, that's it. Nothing more. Let's move forward. This paragraph on the extension of it says, psychologists take one look at the simple formulation and shake their heads like this in disappointment. And what formulation are we saying? We are referring to the simple formulation earlier. The simple formulation we are referring to is basically how economists were obsessed with preferences and preferences alone. Increasingly, even some mainstream economists have to admit that Homo economicus doesn't always behave like the textbook maximizer. Irrational behavior can't simply be waved away as extra economic expressions of passions over interests and thus the domain of other disciplines. Okay, fine. I understand. Long sentences, like always, you got to break them down. How do you break it down? Simple, yeah. Increasingly, some mainstream economists have to admit their Homo economicus doesn't always behave like. So, simply put, economics doesn't always behave like what it is said in the textbook as a maximizer, and you can't assume that humans are rational because irrational behavior cannot be simply waved away, that is shooed away or thrown away as extra economic expressions of passions over interests, and thus the domain of other disciplines. So what they're saying is economics is no more focused only on, the assumption that rational beings, humans are rational beings. It says irrationality is part and parcel of life and you have to work with other disciplines as well. This is one place where the humanist can help the economist. If narrative economics is going to help us understand how rivals duke it out, who wins and who loses, we are going to need much more than lessons from epidemiological studies of viruses or intracranial stimuli. Now the whole thing is, now again it is basically a reinforcement. Economists are learning from other disciplines. And because you can't wave away irrationality, that is what has been written. And the last part, if narrative economics is going to help us understand how rivals duke it out, who wins and who loses, we are going to need much more than lessons from epidemiological studies of viruses or intracranial stimuli. What it is saying is, you don't just stick to, see, the point is viruses beat each other up and then some lose, some win, things change. Or intracranial stimuli. It's not just biology or epidemiology. You got to learn from multiple domains is what the author is saying. At last, above all, we need politics and institutions. So along with other disciplines, the author claims, plus politics plus institutions Schiller connects perceptions of narratives to changes in behavior and thence to social outcomes. He completes a circle that was key to behavioral economics and brings in storytelling to make sense of how perceptions get framed. Perceptions. See, the point is it is perception and not preference, not the neoliberal economics kind of a thing. This cycle was once mediated or dominated by institutions, the political parties, lobby groups and media organizations that played a vital role in legitimating, representing, excluding interests. Yet, Institutions have been stripped from Schiller's account to reveal a bare dynamic of emotions and economics without the intermediating place of politics. Okay, so he's saying, well, Schiller boy, the Nobel laureate, says he's brought in other things, he's brought in storytelling into the whole economics, to understand perception and things like that. But the author has one problem with it, and that one problem is he does not, without the intermediating place of politics, he does not incorporate politics. So, well, Schiller, according to the author, a big smile, but he does not incorporate politics, which is the small crying face. So now that we have finished this, if I have to quickly summarize the whole discussion, and this is a very cool discussion because it's very close to my heart. The very first time when I did my economics 101, the first thing that they told us was ceteris paribus, keep all things constant and assume that human beings are rational. And my question was, well, I'm not rational. So this is basically that. What it says is, the author says rather, is early on, economics was very imperial in nature. It was forcing its ideas and thoughts onto other domains, but he was not really learning from these other domains. Slowly what happened is economists realized that, well, we're not doing well. So they started learning from other domains. And they did. They started learning from all different kinds of domains because, well, rationality is not something that you can wave off. But in the end, he also says that, okay, now they are learning from other domains like anthropology, epidemiology, biology, medicine, and things like that. But, well, there's something else missing. He brings in the concept of Schiller and says Schiller did an amazing job by bringing in storytelling into this whole process. But he misses the importance that politics plays in this whole gamut. So the point is, economists, arrogant fellows, slowly they became less arrogant. Now they're learning from other domains, but they're right now possibly not catering into the contribution that politics has. So let's go to the questions. In the very first question, the first paragraph, the author is making the point that economists like Becker pushing their ideas, not learning from others, which is tended to guard their discipline from poaching. Nope, they never guarded themselves from anyone. Benefited from the application of their principles to concepts too. Nope, they took no benefit. Used economics to analyze non-market behavior without incorporating perspectives from other areas of inquiry. Yes, this is the answer, primarily because before we looked at the options, we said Becker boy is not willing to learn from other domains, but he's wanting to use economics to understand other domains. Arrogant guy. That is the answer. He used economics to analyze non-market behavior. Non-market here is anything but market, which is non-economics oriented, without incorporating their perspectives, without learning from them, without learning from them. That's what it is. Okay, question number 2. Times have changed for the once almighty discipline. We can infer from the statement and the associated paragraph that the author is being. Now, what it definitely says is, the author says this is because the author is under the belief that economics is done with. Their arrogance has tempered down. Now they are wanting to learn from others. So, well, what was he? His tone was very, smirky kind of a thing, right? He was very sarcastic about it. One's big, domain is now falling and all of that. So let's see. Disparaging, well, he's not disparaging. Disparaging is to insult. He's not insulting anyone there. Sarcastic, I think that is a good word to have. Critical, well, I could keep that. Judgmental, maybe not. Let's look at Bombay and Calcutta. Sarcastic about how economists who earlier shunned their other disciplines, so shunned is to push away, are now beginning to incorporate them in their analysis. This is very, very, very good option. Critical of economists openly, absolutely not. He wants people to borrow. That is what the author is saying. Hence the answer is Bombay. It's a very good and easy answer. Question number 3. The author critiques Schiller's approach to behavioral economics for, we did this in the last paragraph, right? He critiques Shiller's approach not because it was bad, but only because it does not take into play that politics has influence on economics. So let's see. Relying excessively on storytelling, nope, that has not been the problem. Denigrating the role of institutions, denigrating is to pull down or to play down or to, lessen in value the role of institutions while creating a link between behavioral economics and perception. That is very, very, very plausible. Linking emotions and rational behavior without considering the mediation of social institutions. Okay. And ignoring the marginal role. No, it's marginal role that media. No, it's not marginal. It's not a small. Marginal is very tiny. So this is definitely not the answer. Oh yeah, the Bombay is also actually wrong. I'm sorry, I apologize. Denigrating the role of institutions while creating a link between. He is not demeaning institutions. He is just not factoring it in. He is not abusing institutions. So that is definitely not the answer. I'm really sorry about that. The answer is C. Definitely C. Last question. We can infer from the passage that the term Homo economicus refers to someone who? Homo economicus refers to the original economics. No, the people who said man is a rational being and all of that nonsense. So let's see. Makes rational decisions based on their own preferences. Very likely that is the answer. Is not influenced by the preferences and choices of others. That is not what it was. Maximize their opportunities based on non-market choices. Again, non-market is not part of this. This is only market. No non-market. Believes in borrowing and the moment you say borrowing, collaborating and things like that, I'm done. No, that's not the answer, and hence you are left with A as the answer. Well, we did not eliminate it and come to the answer. We actually selected it. The first time we read it, we were like, okay, that is the answer. It's just that we were making ourselves to be sure. So this ideally in a CAT exam would be something that should have been answered because the questions are not hard. The RC, unless you are terribly unaware of what economics is, you will struggle, but otherwise this is a very easy question. So this RC, damn sure you got to give it a try. All right, I hoped this was a good explanation and you have benefited from it. If you have any specific pointed queries, please comment or leave a review and we will get back to you. I'll meet you again in the next video. Until then, tata, bye bye, adios.